Hello, and welcome to MetricStream's webinar, Addressing Cyber Threats and Challenges. We've got a great agenda for you today, and I'm excited that you've taken the time to come be a part of this. Thank you. I also want to express my appreciation for the great speakers and panelists that we have joining. Thanks for taking the time and being a part of this MetricStream event. And I know that all of the listeners will gain great value from the time today. Let me make a quick shout out to the MetricStream employees that have hosted the event and put all of this together. Certainly appreciate all the extra efforts. So if we take a look at this, hard to believe so much time has gone by, but I've had the opportunity to be in this IT digital world for over 30 years. And I've had the great fortune of seeing so much advancement. Things that have built over time. In fact, if it wasn't for all that advancement, we wouldn't even be able to have this webinar today and deal with this COVID situation. However, unfortunately, during those 30 years, I've also had the opportunity to witness the advancements in cyber risks, cyber threats, IT security, all of these aspects that have just become a way of life. It is a reality and it's not going to end. And so just as we have all the positives, we have these things that we have to deal with. I'd like to suggest that we can turn these risks into an advantage. And we want to talk about that today. What can MetricStream, along with you, what can we do to turn this into a strategic advantage? What kind of things can we put in place to make this a benefit? And it's hard to think of it that way. In fact, I often say it's not if, it's when. It's not if we're going to be impacted, it's when. And I think that there is the reality, but how can we be prepared? What kind of things can we do to make this an advantage? So let's talk a little bit about it. I would be remiss if I didn't at least give some background. I don't have to tell you, you wouldn't be on this webinar if you didn't know that there were issues in cyber defense and all of this. But SolarWinds, of course, is a great way to start. You know, you think about 18,000 customers that they had, and here one contractor being able to hack in had such an impact all the way to the U.S. government for months, and the reality of this situation. The World Economic Forum has talked about this being one of the biggest issues, top priorities globally in economies and different scales of technology in different regions. But even more than that, I was reading an article recently, and it said that in the year 2019, over 10 billion records were exposed. This doubled from 2018 and doubled again in 2020, 10 billion. IDC has come out with a report in the year 2022. They estimate that companies will spend about $150 billion dealing with cybersecurity. So we've gone from phishing and malware to ransomware and botnets, and it'll continue. And so we got to get out ahead of this. I'll tell you an interesting story. I had a CIO, a friend, reach out to me and say that he had an interesting and devastating situation. A hacker notified him that he had been in his email system for the past 6 months. And the only reason he was reaching out to the CIO was to let him know that he had gotten everything he needed and was leaving. And what a shock to have to bring this to the boardroom and to describe the fact that not even sure what things were at risk. So what I find interesting, and as we talk through this, how can we elevate the awareness? How can we bring this to the CEO, to the C-level, to the board? What things do we need to do? And interesting, we believe that some 71% of organizations around the world don't even have a CISO. So we know it's impactful. How do we get out ahead of this? And that's what we want to talk about. What should the strategy be for this post-pandemic? Now, we know with vaccines and herd immunity and a lot of the positive things that are happening on the health side, eventually we'll look at the pandemic as something in the past, but not cybersecurity, not digital threats. These things will remain with us, and there needs to be a strategy post this pandemic. So we recommend kind of 3 elements to this strategy. The first is you want to anchor yourself in quantifiable data. Yellow, red, green, not good enough. We need to start putting a risk score in place with actual dollar value to be able to prioritize and really think through what is the strategy. We need to look for blind spots. Clearly artificial intelligence, IoT, new unstructured data sources coming at us, big impact. But there's also a big impact in frontline workers, whether those are bank tellers, shipper receivers on a dock, or a worker in a manufacturing or a pharmaceutical company. They all identify risks every day. And what are the mobility solutions to be able to find those blind spots? And then finally, looking for allies. I look at the situation with Citi recently, where they had a third-party app company come in and build a user interface. Confusing. It ended up costing Citi some $500 million. So we need to make sure that we manage these new suppliers, these vendors, this third-party and even fourth-party aspects as we put our strategy together. So we'll talk about that today in the webinar. What can MetricStream do? Well, I'd like to think that MetricStream would be a partner for you. We're here by your side, and we want to help you deal with the strategy and put together a comprehensive cyber program. Just as we talked about, it starts with quantification, doing a risk assessment. We're ready to work with you on that. We want to be able to manage the compliances. We all know that coming through this pandemic and stimulus funding and all of this is going to be more regulation, more compliances. You have to deal with that. What are the techniques and what are the capabilities? And our software and our platform can help. And then managing third party and fourth party, as I mentioned. Being able to leverage MetricStream and our software capabilities to help pull all this together. So we're going to be talking about this, but I wanted to give you an idea of what MetricStream can do to help with this strategy and be able to pull it together. So let me conclude with maybe a little bit more of a philosophical point. And it goes back to what we were saying before. As we get more awareness, as we build this up into the boardrooms, into a CEO, a visibility, and these things become more pervasive, even post-pandemic, cybersecurity is going to be an issue. IT security is going to be an issue. We recommend that you thrive on risk. Don't let it happen to you. Turn it into an advantage. Don't make it something you avoid or mitigate or fear. Make it something that we proactively manage. And I believe MetricStream can be here to help you with that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our first speakers, Gaurav and Roland from TikTok. I know it's a great way to get started. Let me just conclude by saying thank you for the speakers, for the panelists, but especially for our customers that are joining today. Without you, we wouldn't be here. We're not confused, and we're here by your side and work with you on this. For those of you joining, thinking about becoming a MetricStream customer or wanting to understand more about this, let me encourage you, engage our teams. Let us come and talk with you about this. Come with us, be a part of our family of customers, and join us on this journey. So thanks again.